The experience of attending Catholic school has been blamed by many people for many things, but rarely has it been credited as the inspiration for a career in radio. It was at the St. Patrick's School in Galveston that Bob Ford, a self-described ham, began reading aloud to his class in first grade. Later, he did readings at Mass every morning, continuing all the way through high school. Bob recalls, "I was so enamored with the sound of my voice reverberating through the massive church." Bob's big break? And no, we're not talking about a ruler on his knuckles. Came at the age of 15 when his homeroom teacher, Sister Mary Grace, set up an audition for him at Galveston's KGBC. Bob got the gig and began learning the radio business, coming in on Sundays to sign the station on the air after carefully warming the filaments and firing up the transmitter. In 1973, Bob was hired by Galveston's top 40 station, KILE, and worked there until he finished high school. From there, it was on to a succession of Houston radio stations, starting with weekends and then overnights at KXYZ. Then it was on to KAUM, which later became KSRR Star 97 before morphing into 97 Rock in 1982, with Bob inaugurating the new format by playing REO Speedwagon's Roll with the Changes. After several years at KSRR, Bob made the move to classic rocker KZFX Z107, where he did nights and middays. He worked for a year at KLOL before returning to KZFX, where he was later paired with Crash Collins from Morning Drive in the early 90s. While continuing his radio career, Bob began working part-time at Bill Young Productions. This led to his own production studio and imaging jobs with Home Sports Network, Prime Sports, Fox Sports Net, and SiriusXM. For the past 29 seasons, Bob has been the voice of the Houston Astros, first at the Astrodome, and now at Minute Maid Park. And today we celebrate another inductee into the Texas Radio Hall of Fame. Please welcome Bob Ford.
Hi, sorry I'm unable to be there in person with everyone today. First off, I'd like to thank everyone that had their trust in me and voted me into this prestigious honor, as well as thanking all of the directors for the Texas Radio Hall of Fame. I'm unable to be there today because I'll be in Houston, and the first pitch of Game 6 of the World Series happens here in just a few hours, so that's where I am. You know, there's something to be said about being the kid, the youngster, at almost every radio station I ever worked at in my career, from the first time I opened the mic on that old Gates Yard console at KGBC in Galveston in March of 1973 at the age of 15, then graduating high school a couple of years later and moving up to the relative luxury of the ABC O&O in Houston, KXYZ AM, in the summer of 1975 at 17 years old. And then 6 months after that, it was my first foray into full-time radio at KXYZ. And at the time, I was told I was the youngest disc jockey ever hired full-time in the Houston market. I will forever be indebted to all the men and women that guided me and took me under their wings and showed me technique and love and respect for this craft that we have chosen. I would also be remiss in not thanking the legendary Bill Young, who called me on the request line at 97 Rock one Saturday morning when I was doing breakfast with the Beatles and asked me to come over and chat with him after I got off the air. He hired me that afternoon and mentored me while he was paying me for the next couple of years working with him in his fledgling studio back in the early 80s. I'm eternally indebted to Bill, not only a great caring guy, but a great mentor as well, and his guidance is what I base my business model on today. I would also like to thank my morning show partner, Crash, who really got me interested in radio back in 1970, 1971 when he was a disc jockey on KLOL in Houston. I was 14 years old at the time and would listen to Crash and I would think, man, this is what I want to do when I grow up, because he sounded like he was having so much fun. He and I did hook up to do the morning show on KZFX Z107 in Houston back in the early 90s, and we had a blast together. We worked together on the morning show for a couple of years, and Crash turned out to be the big brother that I never had. I would also like to take this time to thank my dear wife, Pam, who we lost to COVID last November, for being not only the love of my life, but the inspiration for me in all of my years in radio. For the many nights that she would curl up in the corner of the control room and go to sleep while I was on the air, and then move to the corner of the production room after I got off the air until I finished all of my work. I know that she's looking down, smiling upon us now. Sorry I'm not able to be there this year to visit with everyone and share some memories and maybe a couple of hugs or two. This is a great industry that we have, and this gathering by far is perhaps the only time every year that we get this chance to get together. Again, congratulations to all of my fellow inductees. I wish you safe travels home, and God bless.